A quiet work site. Two men working in the bottom of a canal. They are cleaning remnants of mud from concrete. No alarms, no visible danger, nothing unusual. Suddenly they start feeling sick. Nausea, dizziness, one of them vomits, and nobody knows why. But they have just inhaled poison. And that's today's topic. Stay tuned. Greetings and welcome to Safety Doctor. In today's episode, I will be sharing with you another real-life accident. This time, the case is a chemical accident that I investigated some time ago. This is a case that can happen to almost any company. That's because the danger was not in the chemical itself. It was something that happened way earlier. Let's set the stage. There was a canal renovation project ongoing. The river had been redirected so that the work could take place. First phase was to remove all the sludge that had been accumulating in the area over the years. It was mechanical work. First it was done with mini excavator, then with shovel, and the last phase was to clean it with pressure washer. And everything seemed completely normal. How the incident happened. There was two men working in the bottom of the canal. They were doing the final cleaning with pressure washer. It had been a long day, but they wanted to finish the job before going home. And that was their normal routine work. There was nothing special about it. They were wearing the usual PPE. They had gloves and they had protective clothing, helmets, goggles, boots, the works. It didn't look like chemical work. It didn't look like hazardous material handling. It did not look like anything that should have raised special concern. Basic bread and butter. Suddenly, situation changed. The workers started feeling sick. The symptoms followed one another. The nausea, dizziness, vomiting. First they thought that the heavy day was taking its toll, but this was not fatigue. Suddenly a work day had changed to an emergency situation. Fortunately, they understood they needed to get out of the shaft. But nobody knew what had happened. No preparation, no risk assessment, no work plan had identified this hidden danger. The job had been prepared as normal cleaning work, not as a dangerous chemical exposure scenario. What happened? The work followed completely normal maintenance logic. The sludge was first removed mechanically and the remaining surfaces needed to be cleaned with pressure washer. And that was the moment when the problems began. But nobody saw it beforehand. The sludge on the bottom of the canal was not just mud. For decades, the river was exposed to industrial pollution from factories operating along its banks. Chemicals and hazardous substances had entered the water over many years. The mud itself was poison. Over the years, it had accumulated a huge quantity of different toxins, worst of which were dioxin and mercury. Later the workers did say that the mud smelled, but they also said that mud always smells. From their perspective, there was nothing unusual about the situation. The dirty, stagnant sludge is normal in their line of work. It's very possible that the smell of the mud hid the smell of the toxins, and they could not smell them. But as soon as the pressure washer hit the concrete, the poisons came in the air. It became aerosol and they breathed it in. They could not see it, they couldn't understand it, and even if there was something unusual in the smell, they didn't connect it with chemical exposure. But their lungs did, and that's how the poisoning began. The investigation revealed something very important. The river had not been contaminated suddenly. It had been a problem for a very long time. The contamination was not a new thing. The local people knew it. They knew, for example, if they caught fish from the river, they should never eat it. The river contamination had even been reported in the newspapers years earlier. It was not secret information. The information existed, but it was not where it needed to be. It was not in the risk assessments, it was not in the safety plan, not in the work instructions, not in site induction, or in any of the contract documents. Nobody on site had read the old newspaper articles. The contractors were not local. They did not know the history of the river. They only saw a dry canal and sludge that needed to be removed. It was silent local knowledge. The kind of knowledge that lives in coffee table conversations and in old newspaper clippings, but not in safety documents. The client knew the contamination history, but the information never became safety guidance. And that's where the real accident happened. Not when the pressure washer started. It was much earlier. At the exact moment the hazard information was left undocumented. Let's do a bit of analysis. This was not primarily a PPE failure. This was an information management failure, and it was a hazard communication failure. Safety failed long before the work started. It failed in documents, it failed in communication, it failed in the interface between the client and the contractor. When critical hazard information disappears inside an organization, workers are exposed to dangers they have absolutely no chance of identifying themselves. It's a system failure. It's not an individual mistake. In this case, the work was completed later, safely. A specialized contractor was brought in. They had experienced crew, and the work was done using chemical protection suits and breathing protection. The work methods were planned around the risk, and everything was done according to correct procedure. And the work could be completed safely. And this is the most important contrast in the entire case. The problem was not the work. The problem was that everybody thought they were doing the wrong kind of work. They thought they were doing cleaning, but in reality they were doing chemical work. Responsibility. After the poisoning had happened, the first question was not who was using the pressure washer, who turned it on. It was who knew about the hazard. The investigation concluded that the contractor was not responsible for the incident. And why was this? Because they were performing work based on the information that they were given. They were not local. They did not know the contamination history of the river. They didn't know anything about the factories and released poisons and toxins. They only saw a canal that needs cleaning, and no official document said otherwise. We could say if a hazard is not communicated, it can't be controlled. And that's why the responsibility didn't begin at the bottom of the canal in the hands of the workers. It began much earlier. It began when information failed to move. The client knew about the contamination, but the knowledge never became safety management. In this case, the most important and the most dangerous mistake did not happen at the workers' hands. It happened much earlier, in a meeting room, in documentation, and in silence. Lessons learned today. Mud can be toxic. Not all dirty work is automatically dangerous, but quite often it can be. Even sewer sludge is poison when you get it in wrong places. If something doesn't smell bad, it doesn't mean it's safe. Many dangerous substances are odorless. We learned that pressure washing can change the situation quite badly. If there's toxic on a surface, it becomes breathable and the toxins can go straight through most of our defenses and have serious consequences. PPE is not decoration. Wear the right kind of PPE, nothing more, nothing less, and make sure it's adequate for the job. And then we come to the hazard recognition. You can't wear the right PPE if you don't know what the hazards are. So you can't control hazards you fail to identify. Never assume that your contractor knows the history or hidden dangers of your site. It's impossible. And if the information doesn't move, the danger does. Safety critical information that's never properly documented and delivered becomes someone else's exposure. When information is silent, it means not everyone can hear it. If a hazard is known, it must be included in risk assessments, and in turn they have to be reflected in contract materials. Normal work can kill you quietly. The most serious exposures often look like completely ordinary work. The heaviest price is paid by those who are broken by the work because of these unseen threats. People usually fear hazards they can see: fire, heights, machines, but occupational illness often begins in somewhere much quieter. It can be inside ordinary work, inside ordinary air, inside a hazard that nobody identified. In this episode, the most dangerous poison was not in the sludge, it was in the information that nobody wrote down. This was our episode about hazard nobody saw. If your company needs help in any of the topics I talk about in this channel, don't hesitate to contact me. I can help you wherever your company is. My email will be there somewhere. If you want to help my channel grow and reach more people, you can subscribe and share this video on social media, or even send it directly to a friend that might be interested in these topics. All of these will help me greatly. Thank you.